In the busy city of Lagos, where cars move fast and people rush every day, there lived a man called Pastor Emeke. Lagos was always loud, horns were blowing, buses were shouting for passengers. People were running after money, jobs, and success. In this kind of city, many people were tired. Many people were looking for hope. Pastor Emeke knew this very well. Emeke was not always a pastor. Before, he was just an ordinary man. He loved good clothes. He loved attention. He loved when people greeted him and called his name. Deep inside his heart, Emeke wanted to be important. He wanted people to look at him and say, "This man is special." One day, Emeke said God called him. He told people he had a vision. He said God spoke to him in the night. He said God chose him to help people, heal people, and change lives. Many people believed him because he spoke well. His voice was strong. His words sounded sweet. He knew how to talk in a way that touched people's hearts. Soon, Emeke opened a church. At first, the church was small, only a few plastic chairs, a small speaker, a rented shop. But Emeke did not give up. Every day he told people, God will change your story. He said, your enemies will fall. He said, this year is your year. People loved to hear these words. The church began to grow. People came with big problems. Some had no money, some had sickness, some could not have children, some were just lonely and tired of life. Pastor Emeke would shout, he would pray loudly, he would jump, he would wave his hands, people would fall down, some would cry, some would scream. They said, power. Soon stories began to spread. People said Pastor Emeke could see visions. They said he could tell people their names without asking. They said he could see their problems before they spoke. Some people said they were healed. Some said their business grew after coming to the church. The church became full every Sunday. Pastor Emeke changed. His clothes became finer. His shoes became shinier. He started driving a big car. People now called him Daddy. When he walked, people knelt down. When he spoke, people clapped. When he said Amen, the whole church shouted. But inside Pastor Emeke's heart, something was wrong. He loved the money more than the people. He loved the praise more than the truth. He did not teach people to be kind or honest. He only taught them to fear him. He said, if you leave this church, your life will spoil. He said, anyone who talks against me is fighting God. Some people felt uneasy, but they kept quiet. Every Sunday, the church was packed. Music was loud, lights were bright, cameras were recording. Everything looked powerful and holy. But behind the altar, Pastor Emeke was hiding secrets. His prayers were not clean. His power did not come from a good place. Still, nobody knew. To the people sitting on the chairs, Pastor Emeke looked like a strong man of God, a helper, a prophet, a savior. They trusted him with their money, their problems, and their lives. They did not know that a day was coming. A Sunday was coming, a Sunday that would change everything, and that Sunday was very close. That Sunday was coming closer, but before it came, something else was happening behind closed doors. Pastor Emeke was not always confident inside his heart. Even though people praised him outside, inside he was afraid. He was afraid of losing power. He was afraid people would stop coming. He was afraid the money would stop flowing. Late at night, when the church was quiet and everybody had gone home, Emeke stayed back alone. Sometimes he locked the church door. Sometimes he went into a small room behind the altar. Sometimes he did not pray like other pastors pray. Instead of calling God with a clean heart, Emeke whispered strange words. Words he was not taught in church. Words he did not read from the Bible. He believed those words gave him power. At first he told himself, I am doing this to help people. Later he knew the truth, but he did not stop. Something answered him. At first it was just a voice in his mind. The voice told him what to say in church. It told him secrets about people. It told him how to scare them so they would obey. The voice said, do this and they will fear you. The voice said, say this and they will bring money. Emeke listened. Each time he obeyed the voice, strange things happened in church. People fell faster, people screamed louder, people believed more, and the more they believed, the more powerful Emeke looked. But there was a price. The voice did not like kindness. The voice did not like truth. The voice liked pride. Emeka became proud. When poor people cried, he told them to give more money. When someone questioned him, he shouted at them. When someone said they felt uncomfortable, he called them enemies. Some church members noticed changes. They saw how Emeke shouted more than he smiled. They saw how he loved offerings more than prayers. They saw how he never allowed questions. But fear kept them quiet. Emeke himself was no longer sleeping well. At night he had bad dreams. Sometimes he woke up sweating. Sometimes he felt like someone was watching him. Sometimes he felt cold even when the weather was hot. Still, he continued. He told himself, I am too far to stop now. He told himself, people depend on me. He told himself, nothing will happen. But something was already waiting. That power behind him was not happy. It did not like to stay hidden forever. It did not like to be used quietly. It wanted to be seen. As the days passed, strange signs started appearing in the church. The microphone made noise during prayers. Lights went off suddenly. Some people felt scared for no reason. Emeke ignored all of it. He focused on the coming Sunday. He planned a big service, more music, more shouting, more drama. He wanted to show everyone that he was still powerful, but deep inside, something was boiling. Something was ready, and Emeke did not know that the very power he trusted was about to shame him, right in front of everyone. The Sunday was now very close. The Sunday finally came. From early morning, the church was already busy. People were coming in groups. Some came with their families, some came alone. Some came with big hope in their hearts. They wore their best clothes. They smiled. They believed something good would happen that day. Inside the church, chairs were arranged neatly. Music was playing softly. The air felt serious but exciting. People whispered to each other saying, "Today will be powerful." Some said, "Pastor said this Sunday is special." Others said, "My breakthrough must come today." Pastor Emeke was in the back room. He wore a fine suit. His shoes were shining. He looked at himself in the mirror and smiled. Outside, people were already chanting his name. He lifted his head proudly, but inside his chest, his heart was beating fast. He felt strange. He tried to pray, but the words did not come out well. His mouth felt dry. His hands felt cold. He shook it off and said to himself, "I am in control." The service started. The music became loud. People clapped. People danced. Some people cried during worship. Others lifted their hands and closed their eyes. The place looked holy and full. Then Pastor Emeke walked to the altar. The church became quiet. He raised his hand and shouted, "Power!" The people shouted back, "Power!" He smiled. He began to preach. He spoke strongly. He shouted. He warned people about enemies. He told them to sow seeds. He told them miracles were happening already. People believed. Suddenly, something felt wrong. A woman in the middle row started shaking. At first, people thought it was normal. They had seen people shake before, but this shaking was different. Her body shook hard, her eyes rolled. A strange sound came from her mouth. People moved back. Pastor Emeke stopped talking for a moment. He looked at her. His heart jumped. He felt fear, but he did not show it. He said loudly, "Bring her forward." As church workers rushed to the woman, the air inside the church changed. The joy disappeared. Fear replaced it. People began to whisper. Some held their children close. When the woman stood up, her face changed. Her voice was no longer her own. It was deep. It was rough. It did not sound human. The whole church went silent. People could hear their own breathing. Pastor Emeke stepped back a little. The woman looked straight at him. She smiled, but it was not a normal smile. And then, in front of everyone, she spoke words that made the church freeze. She called Pastor Emeke by name. Not pastor, not man of God, just his name. Emeke felt weak. The people were confused. They did not know that the moment they had been waiting for had arrived. Something had come out, and it was not there to obey. It was there to expose, and before anyone could stop it, the truth was about to explode, right there on the altar. The whole church was quiet. Nobody moved. Nobody talked. All eyes were on the woman standing in front. She looked at Pastor Emeke again and laughed. The laugh was loud. The laugh was scary. It did not sound like a human laugh. Pastor Emeke tried to speak, but his voice did not come out. His mouth opened. Nothing came. The woman lifted her head and said in that deep voice, "Emeke, you know me." People gasped. Some shouted, "Jesus!" Some stood up from their seats. Some wanted to run, but their legs could not move. The woman took one step forward. Pastor Emeke took one step back. Sweat started pouring from his face. His fine suit was now shaking with his body. His hands were trembling. This was not the drama he planned. This was not the kind of power he wanted people to see. The voice spoke again. "You call yourself a man of God," it said. "You stand on this altar and lie. You collect money and steal hope." The church workers tried to come closer, but the woman turned her head sharply and shouted, "Don't move!" They stopped immediately. Fear filled the room. The demon continued, "You and I made a deal. You wanted fame. You wanted power. You wanted people to bow." Pastor Emeke fell to his knees. "No, no, stop," he whispered. But the demon did not stop. "You promised me loyalty," the voice said. "You used my power and pretended it was God. Now you want to act holy." People were crying now. Some covered their ears. Some shouted prayers. Some were confused and shaking. Then something happened that nobody would ever forget. The woman walked close to Pastor Emeke. Very close. She raised her hand. Slap! The sound was loud. The slap echoed through the church. Pastor Emeke fell sideways on the altar. People screamed. This was not a small slap. This was not a movie. This was real. The mighty pastor, the man people feared, the man people knelt for, was slapped like a child, in front of everyone. The demon spoke again, calm and proud. "I am tired of hiding," it said. "You used me, now I will disgrace you." Pastor Emeke lay on the floor, crying like a baby. His power was gone. His voice was gone. His pride was broken. The church was no longer a place of shouting and dancing. It had become a place of truth. And the demon was not finished talking yet. What it was about to say next would destroy everything Pastor Emeke built. And the people were about to hear the truth they never expected. Pastor Emeke was still on the floor. He was crying. His fine clothes were dirty. His strong voice was gone. The church was silent again. Only small sounds could be heard. People crying, people praying softly, people shaking in fear. The woman stood over Emeke. Her eyes were sharp. Her face was hard. That deep voice came out again. "You think today is a mistake?" the voice said. "You think this is an accident?" "No," it continued. "This day was planned." People looked at each other. Some were holding their heads. Some were holding their mouths. Some felt like their hearts were breaking. The demon began to speak slowly, clearly, so everyone could hear. "From the beginning, you were not called," it said. "You wanted a big name. You wanted people to bow. You wanted quick power." It turned its head and looked at the crowd. "He came to us by himself," the voice said. "He begged. He said, 'Help me become great.'" People gasped. Some shouted, "No." Some cried louder. The demon continued. "We gave him signs. We gave him secrets. We gave him fear." It laughed softly. "He did not heal by love," the voice said. "He healed by fear. He did not lead by truth. He led by control." The demon pointed at Emeke. "Every time you gave money because you were afraid," it said, "that was not God. That was him using fear." Pastor Emeke shook his head on the floor. "Stop, please stop," he cried. But the demon did not stop. "You told people," the voice said, "if you leave this church, your life will spoil. You told people, anyone who questions me is your enemy." The demon laughed again, louder this time. "You were not protecting God," it said. "You were protecting your lies." People began to stand up. Some church members started crying openly. Some shouted, "I knew something was wrong." Some fell on their knees, asking God for forgiveness. The demon looked at the crowd again. "You followed a man," it said. "You forgot to seek God for yourselves." Those words cut deep. The demon then looked back at Emeke one last time. "You are exposed," it said. "Your stage is finished. Your fake power is over." The woman suddenly screamed loudly. Her body shook violently. She fell to the ground. Church workers rushed forward. The demon was gone. The woman lay there, breathing heavily, slowly returning to herself. The church was no longer the same. Pastor Emeke was still on the floor, exposed, broken, silent. Nobody clapped, nobody shouted power. People were now afraid of the truth, and they knew this was not the end. This was only the beginning of the fall of Pastor Emeke. What would happen next would shock the whole city. The church stayed quiet for a long time. Nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew what to say. Pastor Emeke slowly stood up from the floor. His face was swollen from crying, his eyes were red, his hands were shaking. The strong man people feared before was gone. What stood there now was a weak and broken man. He tried to speak. "My people," he said softly. But no sound of respect answered him. People looked away. Some stood up and carried their bags. Some shook their heads slowly. The church workers did not know who to obey anymore. Before, they rushed whenever Emeke spoke. Now they stood still, confused and scared. One woman stood up and shouted, "You lied to us." Another man shouted, "We trusted you with our lives." Soon voices filled the church. "You collected my last money. You made me fear my own shadow. You said God would punish me if I left." Pastor Emeke covered his ears. "Please, forgive me," he cried. But the damage was already done. People began to walk out of the church, one by one. Families, friends, longtime members. The same people who once knelt before him now passed him without looking. Outside, news spread fast. By evening, everyone was talking. "Did you hear what happened? The pastor was exposed. A demon slapped him. It happened live in church." Videos were everywhere. Phones recorded everything. Social media carried the story like fire. The name Pastor Emeke was no longer respected. It became a warning. Sponsors stopped calling. Members stopped attending. Offerings stopped coming. The big car stayed parked. The fine clothes stayed in the wardrobe. The church building became empty. At night, Emeke sat alone in his house. No noise, no praise, no power, only silence. He remembered the days he shouted at people. He remembered the fear he planted in their hearts. He remembered the truth he ignored. Sleep refused to come. When he closed his eyes, he saw the slap. He heard the voice. He felt the shame again and again. For the first time in a long time, Emeke felt small, very small. The city had turned its back on him. The altar was gone. The crowd was gone. The power was gone. Only one question remained in his heart. What do I do now? And the answer would not be easy. Because when a false prophet falls, the fall is loud and the ground is very hard. After that Sunday, life did not go back to normal. The church that was once full became empty. Chairs gathered dust. The loudspeakers stayed quiet. The big gate was locked most days. People passed by and shook their heads. But the biggest change was not the building. The biggest change was in the people. Many church members went home confused. Some cried for days. Some felt angry. Some felt ashamed. They kept asking themselves, how did we not see this? They remembered the times their hearts felt uneasy, but they ignored it because everyone else was shouting, Amen. Families sat together and talked. A mother said, I gave all my savings because I was afraid. A father said, I stopped asking questions because I feared God's anger. Young people said, we followed a man, not God. Some people stopped going to church completely. They said, we are tired. They said, religion hurts us. They stayed at home on Sundays, not knowing what to believe anymore. Others did something different. They went back to simple faith. They began to pray quietly at home. They read the Bible for themselves. They learned that God is not fear. They learned that God is not shouting. They learned that God is love, truth, and kindness. Some people apologized to one another. Church members who once fought over titles hugged again. People who judged others asked for forgiveness. Old friends made peace. The pain opened their eyes. In the city, people talked openly. Just because someone shouts does not mean they are holy. Big church does not mean true church. Don't give your mind to anyone blindly. Parents warned their children. Friends warned friends. The story of Pastor Emeke became a lesson, not just gossip, a lesson. Meanwhile, Pastor Emeke stayed hidden. He avoided people. He avoided calls. He avoided mirrors. When he went out, people pointed. Some laughed. Some shook their heads sadly. No one feared him anymore. At night, he heard the words again, not the demon's voice, but his own thoughts. Why didn't I stop? Why didn't I tell the truth? Why did I love power so much? For the first time, nobody was forcing him. No voice was pushing him. No crowd was clapping. It was just him and the truth. The people had learned. They learned not to worship men. They learned not to trade truth for miracles. They learned that fear is not faith. But Pastor Emeke still had one last path ahead of him, a choice. And that choice would decide how his story would end. Because falling is not always the end. Sometimes it is the moment when a man must face who he really is. Days passed, then weeks passed. Pastor Emeke stayed alone. The phone that used to ring every minute was now silent. No calls, no messages, no invitations, no praise. The house felt too big for one man. The walls felt heavy. Silence followed him everywhere. Every morning he woke up early, not because he wanted to pray, but because sleep refused to stay. When he closed his eyes, he saw the church again. He heard the slap. He heard the voice calling his name without respect. Emeke. Not pastor, not man of God, just Emeke. One evening he sat on the floor, not on a chair, not on a sofa, on the floor. His fine clothes were gone. He wore simple clothes. His head was down. For the first time in many years, Emeke spoke without shouting. God, if you are there, hear me. No camera, no crowd, no offering basket, just him. Tears dropped from his eyes, not fake tears, not tears to impress people. Real tears, the kind that come from deep pain. I lied, he said quietly. I wanted power. I wanted to be big. I hurt people. He remembered the woman who gave her last money. He remembered the man he chased away for asking questions. He remembered the fear he planted in hearts. I am sorry, he whispered. The room stayed quiet. Nothing dramatic happened. No loud voice, no shaking walls. Just peace. Small peace. Gentle peace. The next day, Emeke made a decision. He went out early in the morning. He did not wear dark glasses. He did not hide his face. People saw him and whispered, but he kept walking. He went to the empty church building. He stood at the door for a long time. Then he opened it. Dust was everywhere. Chairs were scattered. The altar that once lifted him high now looked small and weak. He walked slowly to the front. He picked up a broom, and he began to clean. Not for show, not for power, just to clean. People passing by stopped and watched. They were surprised. Some laughed, some shook their heads, some felt something move in their hearts. A few days later, Emeke did something harder. He spoke publicly, not to preach, not to command, to confess. He told the truth. He apologized. He did not defend himself. He did not blame anyone. I was wrong, he said. I hurt you. Please forgive me. Some people forgave him. Some did not. Some walked away. Some stayed quiet. Emeke accepted everything. He sold his big car. He returned what he could. He lived simply. He stopped calling himself pastor. He became a normal man again. Years later, people would still remember his story. Not as a great man of God, not as a powerful prophet, but as a warning, and also as a lesson. That power without truth is dangerous. That fear is not faith. That God cannot be used. And that no matter how far someone falls, the door of truth is still open, but only for those who choose humility. In Lagos, life continued. Churches opened, churches closed. But the story of Pastor Emeke stayed. A story parents told their children, a story friends shared with friends, a story that said, follow God, not men. Truth is louder than power. A clean heart is better than a loud altar. And with that, the story ended. Not with shouting, not with miracles, but with truth.